We're live.
Hey, BiggerPockets, it's Tarl Yarber with Fixated Real Estate, and we're here in Seattle, Washington, technically Federal Way, and we're at one of our properties that we are BRRRRing right now. We're in the middle of the rehab. I wanted to be able to show you guys kind of what it's like to do one of the rehab processes for one of our projects, especially when it's in the middle level. You guys have seen past videos from us. We're always doing it like right when we start the project, right? So we haven't shown you guys a middle project yet. We'll show you this one here. This house is almost finished. We probably got maybe about 2 weeks left, and then the house is going to be completely done. So later in this video, we're going to go over the numbers for you guys on how the BRRRR works. We're also going to go over what it looks like as a flip too. And don't forget, every Wednesday, Pacific Standard Time at 12 p.m., we're doing these live videos for BiggerPockets. So make sure you click like, subscribe, BP, follow us with Fixated Real Estate, and we'll continue down this property. So that said, this house here, you can't tell, but we call it the Smurf house when we bought it. We always have a nickname for every house that we do. This house was a Smurf house. And the reason why it's a Smurf house, and we'll show you when we get to the back, that roof is hard to tell right now, but it's bright freaking blue, right? It's bright blue roof. Did we want it to be a blue roof? Absolutely not. But we didn't have the budget to tear off all the shingles to turn it into a black roof or some other color roof when we bought the house. So we had to stick with it. We had to do the blue roof no matter what. So when we walk the house more, you'll see that it'll be a lot more clear. And there's some things that you just got to deal with. So we try to pick the most neutral color as possible for the exterior, so that way it doesn't conflict too much with the blue roof. So let's check this house out. Come with me. And don't forget, this is also a Q&A, so anytime you guys have questions on the project or anything that we're going through, later we're going to break down all the numbers. I'll show you floor plans and kind of how we designed and did this house. We're monitoring Facebook for all questioning right now. And if you also do the replay later, you can ask questions there. We'll do our best to get back to you. So right off the bat, there's one thing that got messed up on this project so far, that on a quality control purpose, it's really important that you guys QC your properties regularly throughout the construction. We do it at least weekly, and we take 100 photos every time that we're at the property, and we did it earlier. First thing that popped in my view, right when I pulled up to the property that was wrong from the contractor, was this railing, right? So check out this railing. Not sure if any of you guys can guess what's wrong with it or anything like that, but it's a pretty straightforward, easy rail. It's not that complicated at all. It's just some 2x2 pickets, some 2x4s up top, and a 2x6 on the top part here. But can anybody guess what's wrong with it? I don't know if you guys can tell, but the finished side, which is technically this side, where it looks all pretty, is facing the house. When in reality, this side should be on that side. Little thing. Right? Maybe you might miss it, but the railing's on backwards. And the contractor already painted it. Will we have him change it? Yes, he's absolutely going to change it. He already knows about it from what I know about, at least, but I just saw that he hasn't done it yet, but he needs to change the railing. So make sure you QC your properties. So let's walk around the back. This house was brought to us from a wholesaler, and it was an easy house in the viewpoint, but we had to do some work to it. We had to add a master bath, which we will show you in a minute. And we had to completely change all the cosmetics. There was a bunch of little weird stuff wrong with the property when we bought it. Some of it was the siding was messed up. There was a lot of cedar that was kind of mixed matched everywhere. So we had to get that all repaired and patched. It's got a nice big lot in the back, right? You guys can tell.
Is that a lake view?
Is it a lake view?
It is a lake view.
There's a lake there. So it's probably a better view in the winter when the trees are dead. So on the back here, we actually used to have a door right here. There used to be a door here that went into the kitchen. It was no longer needed, so we got rid of that. And there was no door there, so we had to add that. And we'll show you why we did that when we get into the property. That's where the master suite was. And I don't know if you guys can see the blue roof now. Does it show up all right on the video?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Nice, pretty blue, sky blue roof. So
it's coming back, man. It's coming back.
The whole house was blue. The paint was blue. Everything was blue. And whoever built this house, just loved blue. So we have to deal with that. That's the only negative side to the property, and we just got to deal with it. So that said, because it's a brand new roof, somebody actually said, "That's the roof I want. I want a bright blue roof," and they paid somebody to put that shit on there. So, size point, not our problem anymore. Well, that's not true. It is our problem when we own the house. So. All right, so let's go check out the inside, and let's go break down the numbers once we go in there. Remember, you guys can ask questions anytime. We're monitoring in Facebook, anything about the property or anything like that. So we acquired it from a wholesaler. They brought it to us. At first, we wanted the price a little bit lower than what we can get it for. We tried to negotiate that down, but there was no room to budge on it. It was actually part of the wholesaler had a package deal for some other properties that they had to offload from the seller, and there was no negotiation on the price, not because the wholesaler didn't want to negotiate, is that they had no choice. The wholesaler actually made no money, no assignment fee selling us this house. They just had to get rid of it so they can get the other houses that they were helping out with. So we actually got it with a zero assignment fee, which is very rare because most wholesalers would never do that, but they knew it's the only way that we would buy the house, right? So let's go continue. Checking it out, no big deal. Now, if this was being recorded, we would fast forward to the inside. But you guys are live, so you have to watch this. All right.
Welcome home.
Welcome. All right, so the house itself is getting painted currently. They just got done with all the prep work. They put all the millwork in there, and they have everything taped off, ready to go. You guys can see that there's brand new base. That's where all the nails are and stuff. Brand new base everywhere. Trim, all that. And we'll show you the floor plan design in a moment. Also, like I said too, we're getting better at these. We're actually bringing easels to these properties so that we can write numbers for you guys. Just some quick math. We bought it for $230,000. We're putting 60 into it, and we believe it's going to sell for $375 or be worth $375 when we're done.
We have a question. Nick wants to know if we pulled comps before buying it.
Did we pull comps before buying it? Absolutely, we pulled comps before buying it. So that's a great question. So anytime that you're buying a property at all, before you buy it, and especially if you're going to go live in it, great. You're going to go. You're just going to find your dream home, and price is always a matter based on affordability. Even then, I would still pull comps because I don't want to overpay for a house that I'm going to move into. But when you're going to buy a house as an investment, right, especially whether it's a BRRRR or fix and flip or anything like that, you have to pull comps because it's the only way you're going to know what is it going to be worth when you're done with the project, right? And so if you don't know what it's going to be worth when you're done with it, then how are you going to know if it's a good investment or not? So get really good. Some markets, it's kind of an artwork to pull comps correctly. Other markets, like our buddies that are in Phoenix and stuff, where there's 300 homes that look identical in the subdivision, it's pretty easy to pull a comp in that one. Here in the Pacific Northwest, every house is different on every street, so it's a little bit more challenging for us to pull comps here, but we've learned how to do it over the years. So get good where you are at pulling comps. So let me show you too. So this is the kitchen. There used to be a wall here. We ripped all that out. We didn't take this wall down. This is what's called a rancher house or a rambler, depending on where you're from. And 9 times out of 10, when we get a rancher or rambler house, this we're ripping it out, right? We want an open kitchen concept almost always, because that's the thing to do. Why didn't we rip this one out? Because the kitchen the space isn't big enough, because we have that wall area back there to be able to make it to where it's like a large enough kitchen for this type of a house. So we needed more cabinet space, and we needed to be able to put the stove somewhere and make it all nice. And also we didn't want to put a drop-down stove because it would be too expensive. So we left the wall there so we could have more cabinet space and make it actually better for the homeowner later. And we didn't feel like it needed to be torn down. So we did do all new plumbing on the house. So we did that. We also, which we'll show you the floor plans later, this used to just be one big, huge room, right? This wall didn't exist. So we added a wall to it, and I'll show you why. We needed to make a master suite, right? So, and we also needed to change how to get to the backyard from the house. So that's why we put this door here. So we added a door, and then we added this wall. This wall leads, we needed a hallway. This is the washer dryer room. It used to not be the washer dryer room. This used to just be like some little mud room kind of situation because it goes into the garage. The washer dryer room used to be over there inside what's now the master bathroom. So we had to move the plumbing for the washer dryer over here, and now you go into the garage, and you have the washer dryer, and then you have a hallway, but you also now have a master suite. So let me show you that. So like I said, this used to be one big just family room, right? So when you're looking at floor plans and you're trying to get creative with where to go, this deal was only a deal if we added one more bedroom, because it was only a 2-bedroom house, and we also needed to add a master suite, right? So basically 1 bedroom and another bath we had to add. There was a half bath back here, so let me show you that. So this half bath was a half bath here and a washer dryer over here. So washer dryer on this side, toilet, and vanity on this side, right? That didn't really work out because we needed a master suite, so we took out the washer dryer, moved it over there, all the plumbing, and then we're putting in a walk-in shower here instead. So it's going to be a full 3/4 bath house with a walk-in shower and a toilet and that's a vanity sink. We also had to add this closet, so that's always important. You need a closet to make it a legal bedroom. So we had to find a place for that, put the door there. Now you got a nice master suite with exit to the patio if you want, right? Everything turned out pretty good on it. Here next week, all the tiling starts. They'll red guard this, which is also really important. Some people get cheap with tile. I just want to be clear on that. You need to red guard all your tile, by the way, so that it becomes waterproofing. Don't just slap it right on sheetrock and call it a day. That doesn't work well. But we did have one problem with plumbing, which is something to consider. We have a lot of crawl spaces and we have a lot of basements in the Pacific Northwest. So plumbing is super easy to work with, not technically, but easier to work with because you don't have to dig into concrete to be able to change plumbing out. This house has a crawl space, no big deal on that side for doing the plumbing. This used to be some sort of covered patio at some point that at one point some homeowner added as an addition. So this is a solid slab concrete here. So we had to pay a little bit more money to be able to move the plumbing because we had to basically jackhammer all the concrete out to be able to have the plumber move all this stuff. So we had to pay a little bit more for that, but it's just one of the problems we have to deal with. No big deal.
We have Rob wants to know about, and I guess we could talk about this more at the numbers. We'll go back to the easel. We're not showing taxes, broker commissions, interest charges, all that kind of stuff on the numbers. So
yeah, no, we just showed you guys what everything was worth. So
yeah, we can cover that in detail.
No, we're totally going through that.
Yeah.
Did you see on the easel anywhere about the profit we're making on it? No, I didn't get to that yet because we're going to do the math. I'm not HCTV, trust me. We're going to show you how that all works.
We're so
hardcore. But good catch. But we're not trying to trick anybody on this stuff. So all of those numbers will come out, right? So washer, dryer, garage, and we already have the cabinets in here. So we love. We have all our cabinets ready to go. Those are going in as soon as they're done with all the painting. And you know, our guys like to stage their garbage in here, so you guys don't need to see all that crap. So let's go to the rest of the house, and then we'll get into the numbers of the property. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to ask them anytime.
John wants to know if I buy an auction property for BRRRR, can I work on it as soon as I pay the court, or do I have to have title in hand before rehab?
So that all depends on your state. So anybody listening to this, one of the challenges with like gurus and everything that are out there for real estate is that they kind of speak in broad terms, and just know that every single state has a different law when it comes to how they auction, sometimes even counties and everything too, not just states, but sometimes even counties, for how they actually handle auctions at properties and foreclosures. So know your state. Now, title is just basically so that's saying that you own title. It's free. It's free and clear of other encumbrances, which means that you actually have the title of the property. So when you're buying a property, you want to make sure you buy a property that's free of all other encumbrances on the title. There are some states, right, that do not clear the title, even though the property went to auction. So keep that in mind. Just because it went to auction, your state might not clear the title after you buy it. Now, in the state of Washington, they do clear the title after you when you buy it at auction, so we're safe here. But there's other states that aren't. So know your laws for your state too, because you don't want to go to auction thinking you get a sweet ass deal. By the way, if you're the only one at auction bidding on this property that you can't understand why nobody else is bidding on it, just ask yourself, why are you the only one bidding on that property? And all the other experienced people around you is just like, I don't want it. So if you're the newest person at the auction and you have 10 seasoned investors looking at the same house you're looking at, and you're the only one bidding on it and bidding it up, you might want to ask why. Just throwing that out there too. Now, that said, to answer your question about the rehab, I personally won't work on the property unless I know I actually own the property. So if I'm on title, that's not technically necessary. It's that do I actually have the documentation saying that I own the property? Because something going on recording, like when it's recorded with the actual like assessors and stuff, the county recorders, that's not actually when it's legally yours. It's legally yours if you actually have the deed and you have the actual documentation saying that you buy it. Some auctions work differently where they actually can hand it to you right there. Others you get in the mail later. But if you know you have the receipts and you have all the stuff to be able to prove you own it, then you're pretty safe at that point. But like I said, know your laws. So the only thing we changed over here besides anything, this used to not be a pantry. This used to be like an open air alcove area. There was a door on this side over here, and there was a we had the furnace and the water heater all right here too. Instead, we pushed them just over to the side here, and we added a new closet on this side. So we moved the water heater and the furnace over here instead, right? So that way we can have a pantry for the kitchen and get this out of the kitchen and put it here instead. This is going to be a louvered door, which for some reason isn't here right now. But I think it's going to be a bifold louvered door. So hopefully the contractor remembers to put that on. Why does it need to be louvered? Right, that means it's got slats on it, guys. It's because this needs to be vented. You have a gas furnace that sucks air, right? And you have a gas furnace that sucks air. And you have a gas water heater that sucks air. And if you close it in a sealed tight room, like with a real door, there's no airflow, and it'll just basically, you'll kill the pilot lights. Nothing's going to work on this thing, so you have to allow it to suck air in. So 2 more bedrooms back here and a bath. Actually 3 more bedrooms. I don't even walk our properties. This is a 4-bedroom house, not a 3-bedroom house. I will explain processes later on that. Like, if you guys ever want to know how to be the laziest investor, you guys can talk to me, because I don't even know what happens on half our houses these days and stuff. That's a cool place to be in. Nate knows. Nate, did you even know it was 4-bedroom?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, he did.
I walked this property, man.
Yeah. No, it was great too. It's like Nate's the one that did everything. Sorry, we'll show the bath too. So there's another bath in here. That'll get red guarded, tiled, all that great stuff. So speaking about buying the house too, I'm saying that like I had anything to do with buying it. I didn't have anything to do with buying this house. So Nate and Serena, who work with us, they have the ability to agree to purchase houses, right? And so Nate was the one that brought this one to the table, and him and Serena said, yes, let's buy it. And then I'm like, whatever. And so they buy it. And so I think I've only been to this house like 2 or 3 times, if that. And I think it's only just because I was in the neighborhood, not because I needed to be here. But I do know the numbers. I know those back rows are for it, so I'll show you guys those. Apparently I don't know how many baths there are, or bedrooms. Okay, so that's a bigger room. It'd be kind of fun to kind of go over one day how these Ramblers and Ranchers that were built in the 50s, 60s, and 70s are all the same, like every one of them. And there's really only 2 or 3 ways you can ever remodel these types of properties to get the most value out of them. But that's not for this video today, but that'd be kind of a fun one to show you guys if you have Ramblers and Ranchers in your neighborhood. So let's go to numbers.
Let's go on that wall.
Any other questions? This wall?
Yeah.
Okay. So and if you guys have any more questions and stuff, feel free to ask. The only kind of other thing here is this fireplace insert. We haven't really fully decided if we're going to rip it all out or just paint it. But that'll get figured out by not me, that'll get figured out by Serena, which one day we'll have Serena on this film for you guys, because she picks all our finishes out. And she'll decide how that all works. So, any questions? Oh, alright. Let's talk about the numbers. Let me pull out my handy dandy pen. Alright, so we got purchase price here, $230,000. Remember, the wholesaler that sold it to us had no assignment fee on it because he had to get rid of it to be able to make the sellers happy so he can do other properties that they have with him. So $60,000 rehab. Right now we're on track to be pretty much on budget. We might be over maybe about $2,000 or something like that. By the time our projections are kind of telling us that, it has a lot to do with how much landscaping we're going to go, and if we're going to build a fence or not, which we're probably not going to do, but we're pretty much on track for that. We might be over a little bit. The other thing too, guys, every state is totally different, and every city is totally different with how much money your materials are going to cost and your contractor is going to cost you. We get really good pricing for the Pacific Northwest, but it's really expensive compared to other states in the United States, right? My buddies in Phoenix, my buddies in Florida, my buddies in California, they get construction way cheaper than we do, right? Way cheaper. So, that said, and materials cost more here too for some stupid reason, but ARV, $375. Now, how do you do the math on this? We do things on a cash-on-cash basis. So if you add these 2 numbers together here, right, so the total project cost is $290,000, right, when you add these numbers here, okay? So at $290,000, that's if I bought it cash, right, and did the rehab cash. I did it. I financed the purchase and stuff, and we'll go into that in a minute. But bought it cash. Now, if the ARV is this, then there's some closing costs that are associated with that ARV, right? Depending on your city, whatever it is. For us in Washington, don't quote us on your closing costs. Washington has a 1.78% excise tax. So if I'm going to sell at $375, right, then I need to also include, for closing costs, 1.78% for excise. That's our cost. If you're not in Washington, you don't have to pay that. You might have something else in your state, so remember that. We also have, in this example, we don't pay 6% commission for realtors. We actually pay 4.5% to 5% total, but for math, to make it equal for everybody, we're just going to do 6%, okay? 6% real estate, realtor. And then we typically have about like a 0.5 point for escrow fees, right? So you add it all up, give or take and stuff like that. We'll call it 8.5% total because we have about 0.5 point for escrow and closing, right? So about 8.5% closing expense, right? So you take that 8.5 and you times it. I don't have my phone, so because it's being used to record this right now.
Next one.
What do we do? Okay. Oh, I got a tablet. Let's do some math. Everybody's watching me play with my tablet now. This is fun. Calculator. Okay. So we got 375 times 0.085 is going to be, that's 31,875 in closing costs. Who's excited about paying $32,000 to sell your house? That sucks, right? Now, you can just base, if you're in your area, you can just say, okay, it's only going to cost me 7% to sell my house because you don't have excise or whatever, or maybe you get a discount on realtor commissions, which that's a big factor. Always negotiate a discount if you can, but pay realtors what they're worth, right? So if they're doing a lot of work for you and they're helping you do a lot of stuff, then you should probably pay them full price. It makes them happy to bring you more houses later. So I got that. So if I minus that from the 375, then that gives us a 343 for gross on the resale, and then you minus 290, which is our project cost, right? And so that's 343, 125 minus 290. That's 53,125 in profit. Now, that is before any financing costs or anything like that. So if you go to finance it, then that's where that's going to come out of your holding costs for paying monthly mortgage payments, stuff like that, your interest costs, all that great stuff, your taxes, everything else comes out of that. Now, when we throw this number at it, though, we're assuming we bought it cash. So I want to know what the cash-on-cash return is on this project, or else I'm not going to buy it. So I need to take 53,125 and divide that into 290, which is the total out of pocket. And that tells me it's an 18, so this is this. The cash-on-cash return is 18.31%. So the ROI on the property is an 18% ROI. This meets the bare minimum of a flip for us, right? So we do not like to do projects underneath 18%. I prefer 20% all day. The one that we just did with Jared last week on Wednesday for the walkthrough, he was at like a 27% or something like that. It was a great deal. Those are rare properties these days, right? 18% is the lowest I want to go to. And why do I do the math this way? Because this is my margin of error. That's how I see it. I know that I have, if I could buy a house for 18% or more, 20% or more cash on cash, then I have enough buffer there that if I go over the rehab, mess up the ARB, right, do some stuff like that or whatever, something screwy happens, then I'm not going to lose any money, right? Because I got a little bit of a margin. So remember, rate equals risk. Rate equals risk when the bank is looking at you, the lower interest rate you have, which means that's lower risk to the bank, right? The higher return you get on a property, right, for your return means the lower risk to you in that case because you have a better margin. Hope that makes sense, everybody. So if you guys have questions on any of this kind of stuff, we can go through it. Now, you throw some holding costs in there, right? We borrow at a 10% right now for the lender that's on this property, right? That's 10% on this money. So that's $29,000 a year divided into 12 months, whatever the fuck that is, right? I gotta stop cussing. Then you add that, we got a 4-month project here, so you probably got another $8,000 in holding costs that we have to add into this for our real profit. So in actuality, our real profit is probably more around $45,000 on the property by the time we're said and done. once you include that, some taxes and everything too, right? Now, BRRRR, let's talk about BRRRR. This is a flip. So if we sell it, that's a flip. Let's talk about BRRRR. So let's just say, let's carry this over. So we have, if the property's worth $375, the most important number I need to know on a BRRRR, if that's what it's going to appraise at, is how much money can I pull out when I go to refinance it, right? So most banks are only going to lend you up to 75% loan to value on the appraised value of the property when it's done. So 75% of that is 281, 250. That's 75% LTV. Okay? So that's the max loan I can get. That doesn't include closing costs. Now I don't have any, if I refinance the property, I don't have any of these when I refinance. I don't have excise costs, I don't have a realtor expense, but I do have an escrow fee, and I do have a loan fee that you're gonna have to pay. I also have an appraisal I have to pay for it, all that kind of stuff too. So call it, 2%, something like that I'm gonna still pay at the end of the day, right? So also remember this too, if my project costs are here, if my project cost is $290, right, plus some holding costs, I might actually be right around the number of like maybe $300. So my project costs after rehab and after holding expenses and stuff like that, by the time I get to refi, my total project cost might actually only be my total is $300,000. Right? So I might actually be into this project for $300,000 when we're all said and done because of the interest charges and all that kind of stuff. What does that mean for a BRRRR? If this is the maximum loan I can borrow, and this is what my project costs are going to be by the time I'm done, then the difference between these two numbers here, right, which for simple math, actually that's actually pretty simple math, that's $18,750, right? Mm-hmm. So if I refinance this property and I keep it as a BRRRR, I have to leave $18,750 into the project. Does that make sense to everybody? So I have to leave $18,000 in. Now on this house, right, when it's all said and done, right, the loan on this property and everything with what the interest rate's going to be, taxes, insurance, all that kind of stuff, it's probably going to be right around, if I had to guess, it's going to be right around $1,700–1,800 a month, right, to do that, right? So for this loan, so it's going to be between $1,700 to $1,800 a month for principal, interest, taxes, insurance on the loan itself. This house will rent out for probably about $2,150 when it's done, right? $2,150 a month for rent. Okay? So how do I know if this is good or not? Let's call this, let's meet in the middle, call it $1,750. So you have $300, it's $250 plus $150, so that's $400 a month. Did I do the math right?
It sounds right. It sounds right.
So all right, we got $2,150 minus $1,750. Yeah, that's $400. So that means that our potential cash flow is $400 a month. Okay, so that is not so bad. That's actually a good rental, making $400 a month on it, leaving $18,000 in. Some of you guys might be thinking, why the hell would we leave $18,000 in if we could sell it and get $50,000 right now? I've thought about that every day of my life. Like, why am I doing that? Why would I BRRRR a property? Like, it took me years. I'm a recovering house flipper. It took me years of flipping houses to realize that it's actually better to keep them than sell them all the time, right? Sometimes that's not true, but most of the time it is. And so what is my cash-on-cash return on this? So what I need to find out now is what my annual return is. And this doesn't include, of course, vacancy expenses. This doesn't include capital expenditures. This doesn't include property management fees. It doesn't include any of that. This is if you're managing it yourself and nothing breaks, right? Here's one major awesomeness about BRRRRing a property like this. I don't know if you guys noticed, everything's brand new, right? Freaking the electrical's practically brand new in this house. We rewired half the house, all the plumbing, the roof's obviously new, it's blue too. Everything in here is new furnace, the water heater's not new, that's the only thing not new, but everything else is new. So if that's the case, like, dude, that's like, nothing's gonna break, right? And if it does, it's in warranty. We can get like somebody else to do it. It's gonna be new appliances and cabinets. All the BRRRRs we've done, I think over the last 2 years, the worst maintenance call we've had so far is the expansion tank on a hot water heater started leaking. That's it. That's the worst thing, right? We've got a few like little minor things, but like that's the worst, right? So pretty cool when you do a BRRRR, you would just rehab everything. Now, we got $400 a month times 12 is a $4,800 annual, right? Per year. That's a year. You divide that into that, your cost, and that means you have a 25.6% ROI, right? So you ask any landlord in the world if they would take a 25% ROI, right, on a property or a cash-on-cash return, they'd say blank yes, absolutely, 100%, right? That's huge. Now, if you throw a property management fee in there. If you have to, I don't even worry about capital expenditures on our BRRRRs anymore for like the first 3 years practically, because everything's new already. If we didn't really put everything new, then we'll factor capital expense. But all our BRRRRs is everything new. Because the only difference between this house and a and a flip, is we're just not selling it. That's the only difference. The only difference is we're keeping it. So we leave 18 grand in, we're getting a 25% return on that 18 grand. Granted, as long as nothing breaks or that kind of stuff, right? If something breaks, that return gets less, but over years, equity can go up, right? We can also borrow from it later as an asset that we only got some money in. If I can't leave that money in, then here's the best part. I have another exit strategy. I can sell it, and now it's a flip, right? So, beautiful thing about BRRRR, if you do the right numbers, is you have two exit strategies. You have to keep it as a rental, or you can flip it. And if you keep it long enough as a rental, you have more exit strategies. You can 1031 it, right? You can leverage it with a bank to be able to pull equity lines out. There's so much cool stuff you can do with rentals. Any questions?
None.
Is anybody even watching this? No.
We have so many people watching.
So many people watching it. If you guys have questions at any time, just let us know. Let me show you guys the floor plan and how we do that. Can you come over here so we can see it? This is our full screen. Full screen. Okay. How's that look? Everybody see that? All right. So this is the floor plan of the house before we bought it. Right. Hopefully I use the right side of the marker. Don't do that. But so this is where we are right now. We're actually right in the spot right here, doing this beautiful video for you guys. So when we bought it, it had this little wing wall here, and you can see here where we said earlier with the water tank and the furnace, so this little alcove. There was a door here. It didn't get drawn in for some reason. So we had to remove that door, and then this was that big open area I was talking about with the laundry, washer, dryer, and the half bath, and then just mud room. And then over here, pretty much everything's the same, right? So we knew we needed to add a bedroom, so we knew this area was obviously a good area to add a bedroom. However, we didn't just want to put a bedroom here and just do that and have this still mud room, because if we just literally just made this a room, then your bedroom is right off of the garage, right off of the dining area. Nobody likes that, right? And also you'd have to go through the garage to get to the bedroom. So you'd either have to move the garage door over here into the kitchen so you can get into the garage, and then then we wouldn't have had to put that hallway in there instead. I didn't like that. So we've sold too many houses where it might be a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, but the flow of it, the floor plan just kind of sucked, and people didn't really like it that much, so they didn't buy it, even if the numbers made sense. So on a proposed wise, this is what we did to change it. Oops. I'm screwed up. All right. Screw it. You guys can see it. All right. So for on the proposed, you can see here we moved the hot water dryer, washer, dryer, and stuff. We left that. We just made a pantry. This is all the same over here. Nothing changed. But we made this hallway so that way your bedroom's not directly into the dining room. Turned this into a true laundry mud room, and we're adding that bath here plus a closet to make it a room. Plus now you got a slider in the master, and it looks all good. Really simple stuff. Now, how do we make these? We actually have somebody on our staff that comes in, measures out the floor plan, and gets it all taken care of so that it looks like this. And then we just stare at this for a little bit with a pencil and some whiteout until it looks like that, right? Now, keep in mind, if there's load-bearing walls and all that kind of stuff, you can't just go erase those with whiteout and hope that it works out, because it doesn't work that way, so you gotta be careful. But to finish up too, if you don't have somebody that can make as-builts for you, there is a lot of people, a lot of drafters. Architects are so expensive. On this little house here, I would never pay for an architect to do an as-built and proposed plan for us unless we were completely changing everything in the house. Even then, I probably wouldn't do it. But you do need to get licensed contractors, all that kind of stuff. So you can hire somebody for a couple $100 to draw everything out for you if you need to too. So.
So Marty, I have a question from Marty and Leon. Marty wants to know if you prefer BRRRR or flip. And Leon, very similar, when you buy properties, does it have to meet both flip and BRRRR criteria?
Those are great questions, Marty and who's the other one?
Leon.
Leon. Marty and Leon. So I prefer what makes us money. That's the answer to that question. Long term, BRRRR. BRRRR is always better, right? If you take an investor that flips 10 houses every year, an investor that buys and holds 10 houses every year, in the first year, who makes more money? The person that flipped houses. The second year, the person that flipped houses. The third year, the person that flips houses. Eventually, typically around year 4, 5, 6, the person that's keeping all those houses every year is making way more. And they have way more equity, and they have way more leverage and way more ability to be able to use the powers of having a larger real estate portfolio. The person that's flipping, they're just working for commissions the whole time. And what I mean by that is that once you sell a house, it's just like you get a commission, right? And I'm not talking about a realtor commission. I'm saying you basically made your profit on flipping the house, and now you're done with it. Now you have to go do it again to make the money again. And you're talking about somebody that has done hundreds and hundreds of flips in my career. And I wish I kept all of them. So, except for a few. Some of them I'm like, I wish I burned them down. But that's another story for another day. So BRRRR is always better unless you need money, right? And also if the numbers don't work out. If this number here was more than this, if this started reaching to where my ROI is going to be less than 20%, I'm going to flip it. I'm not going to keep it. So I have a higher standard to be able to keep a property. I don't want an 8%. I don't want a 10% on a single family. I want a 25+% on a single family in order to keep it, right, as a rental. But if I change my mind when the project's done, let's say we have an issue at the last minute that costs us a bunch of money, right, or the appraisal comes back low, then I'm selling it. I'm not going to keep it. So I can just exit peacefully and move on with my life and make some money and go to the next house, right? But if it all works out, we're keeping it, and it'll be all fancy and new and pretty for a new tenant. And that's the other benefit of BRRRR too, is that if you actually completely remodel and make a high-end finished house similar like this, then you're going to get a better quality tenant, even if it's not in the best neighborhood. So you get A-grade paper tenants almost all the time. At least we do. So now, does it have to qualify for a flip in order for me to BRRRR it? For me, yes, it does. For you, it doesn't have to. You might be willing to leave more money into it. But for me, I won't. A good BRRRR, here's the thing. A good BRRRR, an actual real BRRRR, is only a good BRRRR if it qualifies for a flip, right? In my opinion. And why is that? Because you have to have this kind of margin to create that 75% LTV to even be able to refinance and get your money out. If you can't do this, right, and you have to leave a ton of, and this is at like this number here, you're pretty much like leveraged to the hilt, and your project cost, in this example, which was $290, for $300, if my project cost is closer to $375, then I have to leave 80 grand into the deal, right? About 80 grand in the deal at a 75% LTV. That's not good, right, as far as the investor is concerned, because then this ROI goes down to like, 2%, right? That's horrible return. You're going to get a CD. I saw that at my bank earlier today. They have a 1.95% CD for 9 months, right? That's safer than doing a BRRRR that only gets you a 2% return. So that said, yes, I think it has to qualify for a flip in order for it to be a BRRRR.
How do you decide, or maybe some tips on deciding your criteria? How do you decide your criteria?
Okay, so deciding the criteria to be able to purchase, right?
How do you decide your criteria?
Okay, good. Well, so I decide my criteria on a few factors, right? We used to do a 15% cash on cash in a geography, in a certain geographic areas. That was like our criteria for a long time for flips because we did volume, right? How did we come across that? Is that we knew we could handle our construction rehab well, and we also knew our numbers really well, the purchases, so we were able to just like say 15 is good as long as it was in specific geographies. And then there's another component, which is how big is the rehab. I wouldn't do any additions, and I wouldn't add square footage by building up like a pop top, but I would finish basements, but I wouldn't increase the footprint of the property. So I had rules for my rehab. One of our buddies who's on VP a lot, BRRRR, he does something a little bit similar, but what he does instead is he actually wants to add square footage by building an addition or building a second story, because his price for construction is super cheap for him in Los Angeles because he runs his own crews. So he's actually getting way more money by adding an addition. But I don't want to do any of that crap because we don't have it in our crews and we hire GCs. So going back to how you develop your criteria, know your strategy. Why are you investing? If you're investing to be able to have cash flow and you have money and you're okay leaving 20 grand into a deal, that's a total different criteria and strategy at that point, right? What kind of return do you want on that money? With the headaches of hiring a property manager, do you need if you want to hire a property manager so you don't have the headaches of being a landlord, all those factors need to come in. How hands-off do you want to be? That should be one of your first questions and why you're doing it. Or how hands-on do you want to be? Do you want to flip? Do you want to work on the project yourself? Which I don't recommend as much. So know that. What's your strategy? Where do you want to invest? Right? For us, we're in King and Pierce County in Washington. That's our geography. Outside of that, we have to have partners in those areas and people that we joint venture with, and we have to know those areas, right? Or else we're not going to invest. So know that, and also know what kind of risk you want to take. I don't like taking anything less than an 18%. Because it gives me enough buffer, right? Other people do the 70% rule or the rule 70 or 75. I don't really know that one as much because I don't follow that one as much. I know cash on cash return. That's what I know, right? And see, so what's your margin of risk that you're willing to take? And the other component too is nowadays we've raised it. We want 18% plus, but I also don't want to do rehabs that are going to cost me more than 100 grand, right? And why is that? Because right when you start in my neighborhood, when you start going over 100, you're doing a lot of construction, and there's a lot of big moving parts. You're probably doing full framing, engineering of the house, doing a bunch of big components to it that can go sideways, right? And that's where that $100,000 budget can go to 120 pretty quick if you don't control your costs. Do we do projects over 100 grand still? Yes, we do, but we have to know them very well, right? I think our biggest project right now is only 120 grand, but back in the day, we were doing projects that were 300,000 plus and stuff. I don't do those anymore because I have a quality of life that I want right now in my life, and that's not to deal with those headaches of running those large construction projects. So how far do you want to go in your own deals? Do you want to be hands-on or hands-off? Where do you want to do it? What kind of risk are you willing to take, right? How big of a project are you really willing to have, right? That's kind of the ideas there. I hope that helps.
Last question from Kyle. Once you keep a bunch of BRRRRs, will the same bank keep lending to you?
Good question, Kyle. So that all depends on the type of loan you're doing. If you're doing a Fannie Freddie, like conventional mortgage, you're only allowed to have up to 10 on your credit report. So you can go to a local credit union or a bank or a mortgage broker and do business with them and do Fannie Freddie conventional loans up to 10 on your credit. Now, just know that the criteria changes for you every time you add loans to it for Fannie and Freddie. So once you get past like 4 or 5, their credit score ratio goes up. I think you have to have at least a 720 once you get to like 4 or 5 loans with them. Don't quote me, I'm not a broker. And then also your cash reserves have to be higher too, right? Now, you could then go to the same bank and broker that gave you those 10 loans if they're able to also do portfolio loans, right? Most local credit unions are able to go from conventional Fannie Freddie to a portfolio lender style, which is their own internal money that they're lending, and they're not required to have to go through Fannie and Freddie rules at that point, and what their criteria is for conventional. So you could use the same bank at that point. Sometimes you might be dealing though with a mortgage broker that only does conventional, right? Stay away from all the big box store lenders and stuff like that, in my opinion. Like the place where you go to bank, like unless it's a local credit union for a loan, they don't really understand investor stuff, small family, because they like big stuff, like the $40 million deal versus a $300,000 deal when it comes to investor portfolio stuff. So I hope that answers that. Yes, you can totally use the same lender, but you might not be able to because they might not be able to help you, right? So network, we know tons of lenders. We know at any time we can find some lender that's going to lend us money based on the criteria and stuff like that if one lender won't, right? Hope that makes sense. You might pay more, but there's somebody out there right now. One of the benefits right now, on the side note, one of the benefits today that's scary, but also awesome, when I was going hardcore in fix and flip stuff back in 2011, lending was like the hardest freaking thing we had to do. Finding money was so hard, and some of you guys might relate to this after in 2009, 2010, 2011, and 2012. Now, you throw a rock, you hit 6 hard money lenders. And if you're in an area that doesn't have a hard money lender, then they're out there. They just might not be in your city yet, but they will lend to you if you can find them. Like networking on BP and stuff, I'm sure you'll find them. There's a ton of them. Money's so easy to get right now. Hard for the single family homeowner that's going to live in it, which is good, but for the investor, it's pretty loose, and which is kind of scary because there's a lot of new investors that probably shouldn't get loans, but they are, right? And that's your risk that you have to take. So any last questions?
3 things. 1, Leon said thank you. Thank you, Leon, for saying thank you. And then Glenn just said he used your name in Scrabble last night. Glenn, we need to know if you actually won that round, because that's the only thing that actually matters.
Yeah. Hey, Tarl is a fictional character out of a book that was written, I think, in the 70s or something like that. So it's a real name, right? And a book somewhere. Any last questions?
No. Is there a conference you might be speaking at?
Well, I'm going to wrap it up, right?
Okay.
So, that's it. We're doing these every Wednesday. Next week is a huge one that we're doing. We're going to be broadcasting from Maine. My buddy Travis Mills is going to be on the broadcast with me. Travis Mills is a war hero. He's a quadruple amputee, where he quadriplegic, where he wants his coffee right in the middle. I'm giving my closing speech right now. So he's dude, you screwed me up. Anyways, my buddy Travis Mills and I are going to be doing a live broadcast in Maine. Travis owns a marina there that he's an investor, and he's totally remodeled it and everything too over the years. It still looks kind of hokey in my opinion, but it's actually a pretty cool thing. We'll go through that. Travis is amazing, has an amazing organization as well. He has an incredible story. We're going to be with him walking the property. Why does he invest too? Is because even though he gets the VA benefits and he's still gets his military salary, the only way he makes any other money is investing, and he likes to real estate invest. So it just so happens he's a buddy, runs an amazing foundation that we're huge contributors of, called the Travis Mills Foundation. They take recalibrated soldiers, basically severely wounded warriors, and they help them and their families. They live in a retreat for a week to do all sorts of fun adaptive sports and stuff every single week. And they pay for 100% of the expenses. We support them. We love them. It's great. So we're going to be there next week broadcasting there. It's going to be a lot of fun as long as we have signal. And if we don't broadcast, it's because we couldn't figure out the signal thing. So we'll figure that out. That said, October 6th, 7th, and 8th is the BiggerPockets conference in Nashville. Make sure you guys get your tickets. I'll be there. I'll be speaking on stage. You'll meet my other buddies like Jay Scott, Brandon Turner, all those guys. They're all going to be there. It's going to be great. Matt Fairclough will be there, and everybody will be there. Everybody at BP that you guys like are going to be there, so it's going to be great. And then on top of that, every Wednesday noon, we're broadcasting Pacific Standard Time. Follow us on Facebook, and my company is Fixated Real Estate. Follow BP, like, subscribe, comment, all that great stuff. And also Instagram. I'm Tarl Yarber at Instagram. I'm the only one there. You'll find me. And besides that, if you guys don't have any more questions, we will see you guys next week.
That's it. We're good.
And